Council, call the meeting to order. Citizens are welcome to speak on any item they'd like to. They have 5 minutes to do it. The clock is right in front of you, so feel free to take the podium.
Cheryl Girk, 1152 East State Street. As usual, history repeats itself here in Mason City. We've had a changing of the new guard. We have a new governor in the state of Iowa. And obviously there are some interesting things going on. I can understand why our local paper would not have reported all of the governor's comments, especially the ones that government exists to serve people, that the people don't serve the government, and how this is going to be a new day. Last week, they also held for the first time public interviews of the Supreme Court candidates. Well, down there to hear the last of the Supreme Court interviews on Thursday, I also went to the State Law Library, which is located both close to the House and Senate chambers, where when things got a little noisy, you found out that the freshman legislature had tried to outdo the majority leader. I also saw a state legislature there, but what I came upon was an Attorney General's opinion. An Attorney General's opinion that very clearly states that the city of Mason City cannot, by whim or whim, institute new ordinances when somebody challenges whether the correctness of procedure. As you all know, for the past 2 years, since we've had a new city administrator, a new chief of police, and a new city full-time attorney, we've had kind of a military troika. You'll recall that the alternate side parking issue has become paramount to any crime, anything else going on in the city. Now, at one of the budget meetings, we heard that we pay 67% of, I presume, the last 3 years' salary for pensions. We all know that we could hire private contractors. In fact, Fresh Limbaugh was on a roll this afternoon saying that with all the storms going on, maybe we should all have to buy our own snowplow, because he was very excited about the recent Florida ruling about the health care. This is a 1992 Attorney General's opinion issued during Attorney General Campbell's. And in it, it talks about parking meters, snow route, and overtime parking violations under 602-8106, Section 1, and Section 805.6. And it talks about how you can do this. Now, the state legislature, there is a much more extensive procedure where you do a uniform citation and complaint adopted in the code of 805.6 as the general charging document. However, that's kind of time-consuming and costly for cities, and if you dismiss, you sometimes have to pay the court costs. Contrary to what you're doing now, and at the time, your attorney did tell you that you couldn't raise the fee for alternate side parking until the state raised. And we all know that you're limited, that people do have 30 days to deny the charge, and no, you can't refer them over to the treasurer's office yet. And it's only an additional $5 extra fee. However, you will recall that there was this gentleman here who protested, and he had went to the code, and he said, you're not leaving the citations, the parking tickets, on the windshield. And he talked about how he was from out of town and he had received so many, and I thought, oh boy, you just opened the door. I have a feeling I know what action will come next. So immediately, the three got together, and all of you council members that were on then passed a new ordinance. Because as he said, well, he could even feel sorry for the police officers having to get out in the cold to put that on the windshield. So what did you guys do? You decided that you didn't have to pay attention to the legal proprieties, and you instituted a new ordinance in accordance with the chief of police's money-raising schemes, and you decided that you could stick them in the door. That's not proper notice. The reason you can't be capricious or unreasonable.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Appreciate your time's expired.
Yes, I presume that.
Anybody else? Going once.
Nobody else? All right. Thank you, Council, Mayor. The issues tonight would be the memos we received from Director Foster. It mentions that they have their own attorney, Victoria Herring. Well, I got a fun phone call today from somebody who said that our attorney called Victoria Herring up, and it wasn't that fun a phone call, I understand. Well, as far as I know, our attorney works for us. Did any of us direct him to call, make that call? I didn't. I didn't direct you to make that call to Victoria Herring. So I would like a report on it, of who directed you, what the recall was about, where it's at. You know, I've sat up here many times and asked about issues. I'll give you one good example, the speed bump. I never get answers on anything I say up here at this thing, and I'm keeping tabs on it all. Nobody ever gets back to me on anything. I asked about how come the cemetery can have speed bumps in it, but we can't have them in alleys and streets in Mason City. How can they get by with it? The same motoring public uses that road. Why don't you give me a report on that? You work for me. These other five, I'd like a report on that. I didn't direct you to call up Victoria Herring and defend whether the mayor's comments are right or not. That's his issue. Secondly, pride's a terrible thing, Mayor. Pride. There's a lot of people still expecting an apology. Tonight, 4 council members supported a passage of separating the Visit Mason City from the Chamber of Commerce. To my knowledge, we did everything legal. I think we might be being accused of violating open meetings laws, which just ain't so. I think one council member, I'm not even sure, took it upon himself to find out if we were violating open meetings laws by what we were doing. And I think it came back and said, no, we're fine. Because we never all met at one time. We never dealt with this at one time together. So I think what we did was fine. And I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm real concerned about who the mayor works for. I really am. I don't know how one person can direct him to make a call like that. I'm not sure how that's spelled out. If I can answer.
It was true. Anybody else? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, folks. One more. Mr. Nelson, my apologies. I didn't see you down there, sir.
Not offended. Can I give my name and?
No, we know who you are.
I just have a couple things. Number one, I got the chamber newsletter today, February 11th issue, and it has pictures of people going to Washington next week. It's interesting that Clear Lake has 3 elected officials, 2 city council members. We have 1 elected official, only 2 people voting, and what are 3 times the size of Clear Lake. The reason why is there isn't room, which which I addressed, I think, a couple of meetings ago. That's not true. There's plenty of room. I'm going to make a strong suggestion, and if I'm still here a year from now, then pass this on to future councils, but I hope to be here. I mean alive and well. But, you know, we got to seriously consider going on our own and not being dictated how many people we can take with us by the Chamber of Commerce. Let us go. Let us pick the officials to go. And I have no problem with maybe, depending on the project, that the staff person related to that specific project has more knowledge about, would attend with us. But I think we ought to seriously consider branching away from the chamber on this Worston trip and going on our own. As far as the statement, which I just heard tonight, about any violation of the open meeting law, I'm real sensitive to that, because what happened, as you well know, back when we were discussing the fire department, Forbes was accused of that falsely, by the way, very falsely, which came out, false accusations by people in the community. I called to double check that we weren't violating any open meeting law with our city attorney, and explained that we never met as four of us. We didn't have a conference call between the four of us. Now, did we discuss it? That's our job, to call each other to discuss issues on the agenda, get their perspective, my perspective, and make our own decisions. There was no violations, and Tom Meyer can validate that comment that I did call him and double check it. So I resent anyone accusing me or any city councilman of violating open meeting law. I hope the public has trust in me that I would never do anything in a dishonest way to the people I serve in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anybody else? You too? All right, we're adjourned.